Hello, folks. It's Thursday, September 26th. It's about 11:30 in the morning on the West Coast of the United States. In this video, we'll be looking at platinum. I was asked to do an update on that white metal, and it's been a couple of years since I've shared a video on platinum. And so let me share my screen here and we'll get going. There we go. On this first slide, notice that we've got platinum, silver, white, gold. And so those three metals, that's a jeweler's perspective, or the perspective of buying jewelry. You know, if you're trying to decide what kind of engagement ring am I going to get for, my significant other, those are the three metals that you'd likely consider. And then, of course, palladium. So let me keep rolling my slides here. Jewelry perspective, that's what I just said. These three metals, platinum, palladium, silver, that would be from an investment perspective. And I usually or often refer to those three metals as the white precious metals, in contrast with gold, which of course is yellow. And so, there's the white metals, and then gold is the yellow metal. If we look at, white metal, yellow metal, this image, the reason I'm sharing it is these two, the bottom two in particular, palladium and platinum, because one of the points I'm going to make is that if the average individual was holding a coin blank, so nothing stamped on the coin, it's just a round, and got three of them. One's silver, one's palladium, one is platinum. The average person could not tell those three coin blanks apart. It'd be like, yeah, okay, they all look pretty much the same. Yes, so that is one of my points is, and I'll expand on it, elaborate on it. But keep that in mind that the average person cannot tell the difference between those three white metals. So from an IRS perspective, there are four precious metals that they acknowledge and make special compensation for, dispensation for, in regards to tax advantaged retirement accounts, like a Gold IRA account. The IRS allows you to hold four precious metals, and of course, it's the three white precious metals: silver, platinum, and palladium, and then of course gold. So four precious metals from the IRS perspective. That's what I was just saying. Average person can't tell the three white metals apart. I'm not sure that I could, to tell you the truth. The same scenario, holding three coin blanks of the three white metals. I don't think I wouldn't be confident at being able to identify the three of them. Certainly platinum and palladium, I don't have a lot of experience with those two metals. Note the prices of the three white metals, and this is, basically spot prices if you just do a quick Google search on the three metals. Silver at $32 an ounce, and the other two metals basically at $1,000. So to expand on the idea of average person can't tell the three metals apart, well, why would I go and pay $1,000 an ounce for one of the white precious metals when I buy silver at $32 an ounce? I mean, in my mind, I can't circle that square or square that circle. It doesn't make sense to me to pay $1,000 an ounce because somebody tells me, hey, that's platinum or that's palladium, it's not silver. Well, yeah, okay, maybe. Anyway, I find that significant for me personally. And here, again, I was asked to do an update on platinum. I'm not recommending platinum or palladium or any other vehicle as an investment. I can't give investment advice, simply sharing information. Everybody has to do their own due diligence and decide what makes sense for their own circumstances, what it makes sense to invest in. So again, there's the three white metals and their prices. Well, which of those three white metals has the greatest potential for price gains on a percentage basis? So gold gold is going to do whatever gold does, and most likely it will be gold leading the pack. That eventually some country or some entity is going to link either their existing currency to gold, or they will introduce a new currency which will be linked to gold in some manner. And that's, my personal opinion. And so in that scenario, the price of gold, I expect, will jump substantially, and then the other metals will follow gold to some extent. Now, in my opinion, silver on a percentage basis will gain far more than the other two white metals. And, we can look at the historic silver gold ratio. One of the charts that we're about to look at is gold versus platinum on, the ratio of the two metals. But from a history, and there's that, this is my third point, the history of gold and silver as monetary mediums. Well, there are centuries, hundreds of years, and with gold, 2,600 years at least of those two precious metals being used as money. And so again, in my opinion, within my lifetime, I'm 60, we will see somebody return to gold. It's going to happen, in my opinion, folks, that we have reached the end of the Keynesian experiment. And what comes next is gold, not crypto. But again, I'm just stating my own opinion. So, but this ties into my expectation that silver on a percentage basis will gain far more than either of the other two white metals, platinum or palladium. So, strictly from a greedy investor perspective, I'm going to choose silver. So that's an investor perspective. I'm going to choose silver because I believe silver will have far greater percentage gains than the other two white metals. And then my other point, so two key points on why I would choose silver. Again, it's the three coin blanks. Average person can't tell the difference between the three white metals. Why would I pay $1,000 an ounce for a white metal? I can buy silver at $32 an ounce. And so two key points for me as to why I suggest that silver is a better investment, and that is how I have invested my money. I describe myself as a silver bug. I have the bulk of my investable funds are in silver, not gold. And I don't have any platinum or palladium because, again, I don't see the reason to be invested in those metals. I strictly categorize them as speculations. If we were talking about, okay, let's differentiate between investing and speculating, I would put gold and silver on the investment side of the argument, and I would put the platinum and palladium on the speculating side of the argument. But, again, that's just me. So let's look or talk a little bit about the industrial uses, of the four precious metals. So platinum and palladium primarily used as catalysts in the exhaust catalytic converters of whether, gasoline powered automobiles, trucks, etc. The primary use of platinum and palladium is as catalyst metal. And which one gets used basically depends on price. That for some years, catalytic converters are made with palladium. Other years, they're made with platinum. Clearly, catalytic converters have value. They get stolen. People go up underneath cars, gasoline-powered cars, obviously, with a hacksaw and cut the catalytic converter off because they know that they can strip the metal out and go convert it to cash. So silver has a broad use of industrial applications, and I've just listed a few. Obviously, solder. Just about any electronic device you want to talk about has at least a few drops of silver solder. And one of the aspects of that fact is that it's not economically viable to go recycle that silver. It's a couple of drops of silver in a smartphone. Are you really going to take that phone apart and melt it down and try to recover a couple of drops of silver? Well, no. And so that smartphone goes into the dump along with a whole bunch of other electronics. And my point is that silver gets used in a number of industrial applications and then thrown away. It does not get recovered. Whereas gold, because of its value, its cost, typically is recovered because it makes economic sense to do so. So solder, just about all electronics, solar panels is a big use, and the silver in a solar panel, they plate the chip, the chip that actually converts solar energy to electricity, that it involves silver. And so a lot of silver used in solar panels. They are becoming more efficient in that process. It's taking less and less silver as the technology of solar panels evolves, but still involves a lot of silver in the making of panels. Electric vehicles have silver both in the wiring and more in the battery technology. High performance battery technology definitely involves silver, silver zinc in particular, that combination of those two metals. And so battery technology in EVs, and if we continue down the path towards all vehicles will be electric, some states, like the state I'm living in, California, are trying to push everyone into electric vehicles and passing laws to that effect. So potential that in the future we'll have more electric vehicles, and the battery technology will evolve to using more and more silver in the batteries of those vehicles to make them more efficient. Medical, and this has always been one of the things that fascinates me about silver, is that it is a natural antibacterial and antiviral both. It kills bacteria, kills viruses. Back in the days of plague, if you think of England back in the 1800s, people who had money, of course, a whole bunch of people that didn't have money, but people with money would carry silver coins in their pockets. And so if they went, for example, to the grocery store and handled whatever, they would stick their hands in their pockets and rub those silver coins, because they understood those natural properties of silver, that would kill the bacteria and potentially viruses on their hands. And so what we see today is silver is being used in the linings of washer, dryer, refrigerators. Those are consumer products, obviously. Similar thing in medical environment, where the natural antibacterial, antiviral properties are important, because obviously medical, human health, you want to kill bacteria, you want to kill viruses. So high performance batteries, and it's interesting. So if you go and do research on silver, like for example, if you go to the numbers that the Silver Institute publishes, they don't separate the silver that is used for military technology. And yet, based on research I did a couple of months ago, I believe that there is a very large amount of silver being used in high performance batteries within the military. And the example, and specifically in the video where I was talking about this topic, it's the Tomahawk cruise missile with 40 pounds of 500 ounces, 40 pounds, 500 ounces of silver in every Tomahawk missile. And, some people, scratch your head. It's like, well, that doesn't really make any sense. Why would there be 40 pounds of silver in a Tomahawk missile? Well, it's the batteries. It's the batteries in that missile, because, again, if you want a high performance battery, it's likely to be silver zinc, combination of those two metals, and it's about 70% silver. So anyway, when you're looking at high performance battery technology, most likely it's going to be silver. This is another military application for silver because it is ductile, which means it deforms. And so, you know, if you take you got a plate of silver and you take a hammer to it and whack it, it doesn't shatter, it doesn't break, the hammer doesn't knock a hole in the silver, it just puts a dent in it. Well, same thing to a certain extent. That ductility can be used as protection, as shielding, and it's used in a number of small aircraft that, in particular, like helicopters, where, you know, a helicopter in a combat situation, you may have, you know, people in small arm fire shooting at that helicopter, and the people in that helicopter don't want to get shot. And so anyway, military usage of silver, I suspect, is far higher than anyone would like to acknowledge. And again, the institutions that claim to report this is the supply and demand numbers for silver, they don't separate military usage for silver, and I think there's a reason they don't do that. So enough of me rambling about silver. Is it obvious that I'm a silver bug? So gold is used for dentistry, aerospace, electronics. If gold were ubiquitous, you know, if gold was as common as silver in the ground, we would probably use gold in some of these applications. Gold is expensive, and so we don't. But gold shares some of the properties, the valuable properties. For example, electrical conductivity. You know, if gold was ubiquitous, we'd use gold for wiring instead of copper. But obviously we don't do that because gold's expensive and copper is not on a relative basis. So aerospace applications, electronics. I was in a tank unit back in the day, early 80s, M60A3. That was the mainline battle tank at that time. I was a parts clerk. And so I had insight into the parts, the repair parts, repair and maintenance of the M60A3. And there were a couple of, they were parts of the wiring harness. And that they included gold. Some of that wiring was gold, because, you know, again, in a military setting, it made use or it made sense to use the best material for the application. And of course, when the taxpayers foot in the bill, you might do things that you wouldn't do otherwise. And so anyway, some of the wiring in the M60A3 was gold. And we had to, you know, those were a special category of parts. We had to, because of their value, we had tighter control over those particular parts. So in this chart, now we're going to focus, I'm done babbling about silver. Now we're going to focus on platinum specifically. So this is a ratio of platinum to gold. And in ratio charts with precious metals, what I'm typically looking at is which metal is cheaper. If you were looking at, okay, I'm gonna split my investment funds between gold and silver, and when silver is cheap relative to gold, I'll buy silver. When gold is cheap relative to silver, I'll buy gold. And so that's what we're looking at in this chart. When does it make sense to invest in platinum over gold? Currently, as we can see, platinum is cheap relative to gold at this particular juncture. In the lower frame here, we're looking at, this is just the price of platinum. Let me zoom out because it's interesting. Couple of things here caught my attention this morning. One of the things I noticed is last time I looked at this chart, all of the ratio action was contained within this lower channel. And so this morning I had to double the range. How many times have you heard me say double the range? Well, that's what I did this morning to get this upper upper dashed line here was double the range. And so the technical analysis methods work on ratio charts. They work on all charts. Doesn't matter what kind of chart you're looking at. The technical analysis methods are applicable. So here we have doubling the range. Notice that platinum or the ratio of platinum to gold to platinum currently hitting the upper limit or upper boundary of that range. So found that interesting. And I think I haven't given it a lot of thought, but I'm guessing that the reason that we've gone into this upper channel is the dramatic increase in the price of gold. Well, and that makes sense because we're looking at gold versus platinum. Gold has risen dramatically. Platinum has not. Let's look at here's platinum. This is we're in the monthly time frame. So there's, that's 4 years of price action in platinum, basically flat. Platinum hasn't done anything in 4 years, whereas I don't have a chart at gold open, but gold has gone from $1,200 to $2,600 in the same time frame that platinum has done nothing. And that's, I believe, why we're seeing this dramatic change in this ratio chart. So anyway, enough of that. We looked at this again. If you had 3 coin blanks of the white precious metals, I suspect that most people could not differentiate between the 3. And they might notice that there were some slight coloration differences. I mean, if you look closely, there is, palladium is a little bit darker gray than platinum. But, the likelihood of anybody able to say, oh, okay, that's palladium and that's platinum and silver, we don't have an example of. But I suspect that very few people that could differentiate the 3. And again, why would I pay $1,000 for a white precious metal when silver is $32? But again, that's just me. Platinum in the weekly time frame. Oh, before we move on, let's look at the indicators. Again, flat. So if we look at, if we focus on MACD, basically flat since middle of 22. So just not doing anything. It's not going down. It's not going up. Just moving sideways. And we can see that in the MACD action. And currently basically at the 0 level. So I wouldn't call that bull or bear mode. Based on the monthly time frame, I don't see any reason to invest at this particular moment in platinum. And of course, again, if I hadn't made it clear already, let me make it clear, I don't see any reason to invest in platinum or palladium. It's a speculation. It's not an investment. Lots of energy based on stochastics. So let's look now at the weekly time frame, and we can see that price is moving upwards. And so if we look at this, these red dashed lines are indicating a downward sloping price channel, obviously. And now we have the price of platinum poking up above that level. This Andrews pitchfork showing the same thing, but notice that platinum has reached the top of that range, the upper median line of this Andrews pitchfork, suggesting that it has run into resistance. And notice that we have price poked a little bit above that upper median line. You can see there's a wick at the top of that candle and then pulled back. Let's look at the indicators. Again, elevated energy based on stochastics. Now here in MACD, in the weekly time frame, we are in bull mode. And so if you did want to put money into platinum as a speculation or an investment, if you consider it an investment, it is in bull mode. And it looks like we're about to get a buy signal, and may already have. Where's the top of that? May already, yeah. So we just got a new MACD buy signal in the weekly time frame. And so again, if you were choosing to put new money into platinum, there's a potential buy signal. So, but again, I'm not giving advice. I'm just looking at the charts and sharing what I see. So now this is the daily time frame. Similar concepts to what we looked at in the weekly and monthly time frame. We've got a clearly downward action for here in the daily time frame. That's going back to May. Platinum basically working its way lower. Series of lower highs and lower lows, but now that action has reversed and appears to be headed back to the upside. And again, if we look at that's today's price bar candle, gained 3%, 3% on the day, currently up almost $32. And so nice price gain on the day. Notice, however, that it ran into resistance at the upper median line, pulled back. Same thing we saw in the last chart. That gap. So two things indicate elevated energy in this chart. First of all is that doji candlestick. So doji candles are always indicative of elevated energy. And so that doji candle, and notice that that doji closed above the upper line of this downward sloping, this is a shift pitchfork, suggesting that potentially we had a breakout going on. And then follow through today, we get a gap on the open. So when today's session opened, price gaps upwards, and then we get this impulsive price bar. So, there are several indicators of high energy in this vehicle, platinum, without looking at the stochastics. That's my just kind of general, what is energy doing in whatever vehicle. So elevated energy, again, based on stochastics, but we didn't need the stochastics indicator to know that energy is elevated. Again, MACD in bull mode on a buy signal. What else we got? So I wanted to look, do we have any ETFs for platinum? And sure enough, we do. There's two of them. I've got a chart of the first one. This is Aberdeen's ETF. And again, I pointed out in my last video, this ETF DB is a great resource if you're interested in the ETFs, because you can go in and they track all of the ETFs. If we look at, let's open up PPLT, and we can see, so there's the holdings, expense ratio, so on and so forth. So anyway, great resource for ETFs. Here is the price chart of the ETF, and it's not much different than the daily chart of platinum. These are platinum futures. These charts, these are the futures that we've been looking at, and currently we are on, or looks like just today. Oh, well, okay, so we just switched from September to October. And the reason I said is because sometimes on the contract switchover, we see these price gaps, and they aren't necessarily indicative of what's actually going on with price, because futures are different than spot. If you went to the coin dealer today, you might not see that much price gain on the day. But anyway, let's keep rolling. So here in the ETF, now we're looking at price action that is not based on the rollover of the futures contracts, and yet notice that we still have the big gap. So we got a big gap on today's today's open and a break above this resistance level from this prior high. So positive action, high energy action again on today's action in platinum, 2%. So in the futures chart, we're looking at 3%. Here in the ETF, it's 2.18% gain. But again, positive action. Let's look at the indicators. Bull mode, buy signal, energy is elevated. So nice price action. Oh, moving averages are almost in bullish alignment. The 50-day moving average, basically coincident with 200-day moving average. That's the red is 50, the dark blue is 200, 20 poking up above both of them. When the moving averages are in bullish alignment, it's supporting evidence that the primary trend is to the upside. And so potentially that's what we're looking at is the primary trend of platinum moving back into bull mode, headed higher. And then so I wanted to look at, are there any ETFs that specifically focus on the mining companies for platinum? And there are not. There are no ETFs, at least based on ETFDB, no ETFs for the platinum miners. And offhand, I don't know which companies mine platinum. I've never looked into it. So anyway, that's all I've got in this video. Again, I was asked to do an update on platinum, and there it is. So talk to you soon, folks.